Movies, film, remember that? Okay, it's still very much a thing, but agree with me that post-COVID, something has surely changed about the way that we consume film. Things have fully moved to a more disposable model where we watch something and then fall victim to a gluttony of overwhelming options like some kind of fucked up mall of ideas. Because of this, things tend to fall by the wayside moments after they happen. The idea of a film event has become so manufactured by the corporate ownership of our ideas of such an entity that it's become that of a ghost. Is it real? Technically, The Marvels was an event film, but do you remember it? No, you don't. Speaking of ghosts, that's all that's left in major movie theaters now because no one wants to pay a ton of money to go see something in a theater when they can just stay home and watch There Will Be Blood again at home for free. My point is that nowadays it's remarkably difficult for a film to break through the zeitgeist and somehow command people to see it as an event without being told that it's an event. This is a real event. This is an authentic reaction to the existence of something outside of itself. One might even call this a problem, but not me. I think it's great. Not to say I like it when corporations and marketing teams fail to replicate something some dude did in his house, but I do a lot. It fuels me. It gives me hope, even when it's bad, and make no mistake, sometimes the films in question are bad. But I'm prepared to make the argument that it doesn't matter when it comes to the march of time. Time doesn't care. It moves past you. It buries you. It's currently burying the Marvels in a small coffin. Time is a nightmare, which we must all witness and worship. Time is your God now. Ask George Lucas about this sometime. Anyway, time is unkind. You get the point. So why is this happening to you? Why are we talking about this? Why are you even listening? When you look at the time code on this video, you may feel many conflicting feelings. Can I really sit through this entire video when this website contains 100 billion videos on it? But just like the topic of this video, it's not really about what you're getting out of it, it's about how much you can tolerate. Two things are very true simultaneously. Terrifier 2 is a real movie that I saw in a movie theater, and weed is recreationally legal in the state of Colorado. Look down at that time code, again, now realizing why it's that long. I could have made this easy on you, but I didn't. Just like the film Terrifier 2, I wanted to create something that would test your personal endurance. One might ask how someone can come up with 10,000 words to say about a film about a clown that wears sunglasses and kills people. Watch me. You can't stop me. The video already exists. Part 1. Terrifier 2 is a movie that you can watch if you want to. Hello, and welcome to the review portion of the review. Today we will be answering the question, can I give more thought to a movie than the filmmaker themselves did? But a review of the film itself would be too easy. This is a review of you. This is your fault somehow. Let me explain. We've been told that several films since the COVID pandemic went away but never actually went away and is still an active threat to anyone with lungs, that these movies were events. But Terrifier 2 was an actual event. It wasn't a product of trailers. Most of us didn't even watch a trailer. It wasn't through billboards and posters. I don't even look at those. I simply don't see them. It wasn't because of a strange Twitter campaign that made us all ask what those pesky filmmakers were up to. It wasn't because the movie looked or sounded cool. It wasn't because your friends or family told you that it was good. It wasn't because the prior film, simply titled Terrifier, was any good. It wasn't. You didn't like it. No one liked it. It almost certainly wasn't because you saw All Hallows Eve, the anthology film containing the first short film featuring Art the Clown. No one saw that. You didn't see it. Your brain is lying to you. Tell me 100 things about it. Make a list. You can't. Because that movie doesn't exist. You don't remember it because it wasn't real. So why the fuck is it that you can open google.com and type the word Terrifier into the browser, hit enter, and immediately find information about Terrifier 2 instead of anything else? The second most popular search is Terrifier 1 with a literal 1. The sequel was so successful that people in mass are having to add the number 1 to their results to even find it. Terrifier 2 was above and beyond more popular than anything that the collective people that were involved in its making ever did. It's a unique, event-based creature. Everyone saw it. How do I know? Because I saw Star Wars Episode 9 on opening night to a crowd of 4 other people. The movie made money, sure, so I've been told, but the general interest in the film as an event was invalid. It did not sell out every theater like the series is wont to do. However, I had to wait hours to get a seat in Terrifier 2 a week after it was released in the theaters to a completely packed house. There was this rumor of like a gimmick where theaters were told to hand out barf bags to humble audience members upon entering the theater. The odd thing about this was that it didn't happen. I didn't get a barf bag. Nevertheless, many people in my audience needed one and were not supplied thusly. This was difficult for everyone else in the theater. I was, however, expected to give my ID both to purchase a ticket and to enter the theater. I was ID'd twice to get in the theater. Yet this didn't hinder audiences lining up outside to go into a theater that still smelled of the prior theater's vomit. No one was deterred. We were all thoroughly warned, but none of us thought twice about it. Because, well, how bad could it be? Horror films these days are very scary. For instance, there's that part in Midsommar that some said was scary. There was that part in X that was also scary. Do you remember the part in the last Scream movie where everyone in the theater, 5 people, were like very scared? I definitely do. This sarcasm is to say that we have certain expectations when we enter a theater to see a modern horror film. We expect the film to have some creepy moments. We expect the film to be somewhat well shot and colored. We expect the film to have a point. But sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we go into a movie and see something we really didn't want to or need to see, and then we love it, kind of. I still firmly remember the night when I saw the Neon Demon in the theater, because I'm really, really old. When one of the characters was having lesbian sex with a freshly dead body, I watched as everyone abandoned the theater like it was filling up with noxious gas, whilst Finding Dory's sound profile was vibrating the rightmost wall next door. That was a good moment for me. I liked that moment. I remember seeing Spring Breakers in a theater full of people excited to watch their favorite Disney starlets in their new movie about spring break. All of them were deceived to my hilarity. The difference being that neither of those experiences could even come microscopically close to the moment during my screening of Terrifier 2 when everyone realized why they had been ID'd twice before entering, then promptly began vomiting. That was something special. See, I'm now making the case that the reason so many people went to the theaters against their better judgment to see Terrifier 2 was because it was an experience wholly unforgettable. It was an event of trash. It was a moment where the entire nation took notice and said, "Ew, that's gross." People have always been fascinated by their own gory demise. It's a constant theme throughout historical art, but in our modern, more sanitized movie theater landscape, we are denied the real impact of this feeling. Terrifier 2, of course, laughs in the face of that notion. Assuming one is of any intellectual caliber, I highly doubt you walked away from Terrifier 2 with much of a reaction beyond, "That wasn't a good time at the movies," or "I will never watch that movie again." But I guess I'm different because the first word I said was, wow. So now that we're over 1,000 words into this mammoth, what is Terrifier 2 about? Where did it come from? And is anyone that saw the film still a Christian? Terrifier 2 is a sequel to the movie Terrifier, both written and directed by Damien Leone, a sadist. It came onto my radar when everyone worldwide wouldn't stop talking about how it was made for hardly any money and somehow attracted millions of paying viewers worldwide. The film centers around a clown named Art the Clown, who commits the mortal sin of murder. He also wears sunglasses. He also says no words whatsoever. He's a mime clown. He could be Art the Mime. This is stupid. I would like to take this moment to elaborate somewhat on the name of the clown itself, though. Not to edge too close to a classic Tucker Carlson "what is going on here" moment, but why exactly is his name Art the Clown? What's in a name? Someone once said, Art implies exactly what it sounds like, I suppose. In fact, there's a moment in the film where written on the wall is the phrase, "This is Art." This must imply twofold: that his name is Art, but also that the film is what the writer-director Damien Leone views as art itself, like as a concept. The art is somewhere within that conceptualization. This is either an endorsement of the idea that this film is art, or rather a rejection of the trappings of art altogether. Instead of the film adhering to the absurd idea of elevated horror read as quote-unquote art, this is making the subtle case that this is art as well. Moreover, perhaps the name is meant to invoke the all-destructive relationship of art, where characters are born and killed on the page or screen for dramatic utility and therefore used with cruelty. But again, maybe I've had one too many, blunts, I guess? Colorado? There are also main characters and somewhat of a story, but they are far less important than Art the Clown, who, as I said, kills people. Mortal sin of murder. But not only does he kill people, but does so in extraordinary ways. Let me say that again. Extraordinary ways. Part 2. The movie is actually about how Art the Clown kills people in extraordinary ways. If you've seen the film Terrifier 2, written and directed by Damien Leone yourself, then you are likely also struggling to remember what the film was about. I don't think this is a testament to the performer's inability to convey human emotions. I don't think it's a testament to how the script is written or developed in semi-interesting ways. I don't think that this is a testament on how the film is shot. I think this can entirely be explained by how extremely Art the Clown goes about fucking murdering people. In the opening 30 minutes, there's a scene where Art the Clown takes out a gun and commits a mass shooting. In no way is this a political statement or even the rejection of the social commentary that it presents. It is simply a thing that happens. Terrifier 2 just does it. Where other filmmakers would shy away from such a touchy issue, Terrifier 2 proudly goes there and then just leaves it at that. He did a shooting. It's a dream sequence. Don't fucking worry about it. It's just a shooting. People don't do this in real life. Don't worry about it. The opening scene of the movie features Art the Clown taking a hammer and breaking someone's head open to get their brains out of it. When writing this review, I asked myself how to handle the idea of spoilers, but at some point in my words, I began to realize that this wasn't much of a review, as it was 5 separate therapy sessions. It's okay if you cry. I know I will. So again, in the opening scene, Art the Clown breaks someone's head wide open to get the brains out of it. This naturally covers his clown suit in blood and viscera, so he has to go to a 24-hour laundry to clean it. While he's there, he has a vision of a little clown girl that shits on the floor. I know this is simply a statement of the events in linear order without further commentary, but I must admit that commentary fails me in this moment because she sprays waste on the floor. This was the first 5 minutes of the most popular independent film in a very long time. How are you feeling? Would you like a Tums? How about some Pepto-Bismol, perhaps? I mean, you could do what seemingly everyone else did in my theater and just puke on the floor. At this point, I provide some necessary context about my life. I spent the last year of my life watching gore videos and reviewing them so that we can all therapeutically get over having watched them accidentally over the years. I've seen so many unforgettable things. I've also watched both Cannibal Holocaust and Pink Flamingos on LSD, an experience I cannot recommend. All of this is to say that Terrifier 2 was very gory, but it did not make me sick. While much of the audience were shielding their eyes, I was watching without any expression at all, like a psychopath. I saw the whole thing go down. I also have a photographic memory, so I remember the entire film. I will never forget a frame of it, even if I wanted to. The experience was tantamount to a shit show, literally, given that the clown sprays waste. And I can't decide whether this was by design. I certainly know of experiences where filmmakers try to make something dramatic and fail to the hilarity of audiences everywhere, but I kind of think this was the intended response. Damien knew what he was doing. There is exactly one effective moment of what is now being called Terrifier 1, if you Google it, where Art the Clown sits in a diner and makes some silly faces before seeming kind of scary to people eating in the diner. Terrifier 2 has an equivalent scene where he tries on several different pairs of sunglasses to the uproar of laughter from the giant crowd that formed to watch this nightmare of cinema. It's after a few early scenes establishing a family of soon-to-be victims and the final girl. Her name is Sienna. She has a dead dad, who we later learn liked to draw pictures of Art the Clown. This may lead some of us to speculate that Art the Clown is her father. This is certainly not impossible, but is only developed in passing. There's no it's not explicit. It's Halloween, so she needs to get things for a costume she's building based on her father's designs in a sketchbook. She goes to the costume store and is confronted by Art the Clown, who is thought to be dead, yet he lives. Many treat him like he's just a very good cosplayer, not realizing that he's the real deal, so he puts on a bunch of sunglasses and everyone laughs. Sienna has a brother named Jonathan, who at school sees Art the Clown and the little girl clown fucking with a dead animal. This leads us to wonder many questions. If the little girl clown is a strange, shitting manifestation of his mind, why exactly can others see her? Is Art the Clown actually dead, or is he immortal? Is he a ghost? This, like everything else, is never elaborated on further. This ambiguity means we're meant to see him as a metaphor, although I'm not sure for what. If this hasn't been yet made abundantly clear, I would like to state that this film has a real maturity problem. It's not very mature, ever. At all, about anything. If you expect this from it, then you are a fool. I was a fool. Many things happened that I will now list in a non-linear order, just so I can say I brought them up. Sienna and Jonathan's mom is depicted as being a controlling bitch. She doesn't want Sienna to go out with her friends on Halloween, especially not wearing that. Either way, she does, then immediately drinks alcohol and does MDMA. The drug immediately makes her call her mom and, weeping, tell her that she loves her. It is unfortunately too late for Mom, though, as her character has run out of plot relevance and thus must have her face exploded with a point-blank shotgun blast. At a point somewhat later in the film, Art the Clown destroys a guy's dick. I'm not in Fuck. Okay. At a point somewhat later in the film, Art the Clown destroys a guy's dick. I'm not entirely sure if this is played for laughs or not, given that I was laughing but the rest of the audience seemed rather shocked. There are many more things, like a small fire that happens for unknown reason and a special dagger that is MacGuffined in to imply that it is the special blade that will eventually take the clown's life. If he has one, he might be a ghost. I haven't decided if he does or not yet. Come back to this in 10 years, and the video will have miraculously changed to fit my new implications. Mostly, I wanted to blow through this part of the video to talk about the scene. It's the scene, and everyone is talking about it. You know, the scene. It's the one big thing. If I could narrow it down to just one, part 3, that one scene. Okay, so I was at a little social gathering, and I inevitably brought up that I made reviews of horror films on the internet once upon a time, and someone I was speaking to asked me if I'd seen Terrifier 2 yet. I said I had, and he asked me what I thought. I vaguely remember calling the movie utter shit before gleefully recounting moments of the movie that I was amazed by. I tried to dance around the elephant in the room, and of course, he asked me what I thought of that one scene, and I knew at once which scene he was talking about. See, Terrifier 2 is one of many independent films to use crowdfunding to get made. There were minor investment contributions, but the large majority of the funding came from an Indiegogo campaign that raised $250,000 US. I bring this up because I can't help but wonder if the people that contributed to the film knew he was going to use that money to commit cinematic crimes, and if they did, were they satisfied that he did that? Are they happy that they helped do this to me? Okay, there's a scene in the movie that will no doubt call the monetization of this video into question. By simply bringing it up at all, YouTube has become much more strict in its monetization system, so I will actually take this moment to ask my editor to be very careful with this part of the review, and probably the whole review, but definitely this part. The scene is simply one of the many, many murders committed on screen during the film's shockingly long 138-minute runtime, by the way! But this one is somehow different. It's unforgettable. It's the one where everyone just pukes their fucking guts out. It's a fucking bloodbath. It's the scene that makes even seasoned viewers of some of the grossest movies in existence to say, damn, I didn't know they were going to do that. They did, though. They sure did. Art the Clown holds an innocent character by the hair as he scalps her. Then he slices her eye. Then he carefully flays the skin on her back. At that point, you feel like this is probably sufficient. But it's not. There's more. He uses some leverage to break one of her arms off her body like doll parts. Then he rips the other arm to pieces. But then, as a lover of pain, he pours salt and bleach into her new wounds for absolutely no sufficient reason beyond self-satisfaction. Then, as a cherry on top of the cake, made entirely of shit, he rips her face in half and leaves her for her mother to find. In a moment punctuated by truly grim comedy, her mother walks in and finds her in pieces where she is still alive. Why did Damien Leone do this? Why did this happen in the most successful indie horror film of many years? And also, just why? The scene feels like it goes on for 10 minutes or so, but it's probably closer to 5. I don't know. I didn't check, because that would mean that I would have to rewatch the scene, which I am physically unable to do. Of all the boundaries that the film crosses, this is somehow the worst one. It's as bad as something you would find in like an August Underground or Guinea Pig movie, but in shocking cinematic quality and in a film that was made, it made over $15 million in its theatrical run. This is why the film had to be an independent film. In response to the overall reaction to the film's causing emotional distress, fainting, and vomiting during nationwide screenings, Damien Leone said that he didn't intend for anyone to have such a horrible reaction. This is real, by the way. I would like to meet him and ask him to come sit on my couch with me, and I would show him this scene from his own film and see if he can reevaluate that statement, because I don't see a situation where a reaction like this wasn't going to happen. I've never seen something this shocking in a theater, let alone one so filled with eager filmgoers. I'm not mad at him. I'm not even disappointed in him. I just think he's lying if he didn't expect this to shock audiences in a terrible way. I mean, Art the Clown pours salt and bleach on her flayed body. What did you think was going to happen? What did happen was the film received critical acclaim and tons of successful packed screenings for 2 weeks uncontested. It became a quote-unquote moment. At this point, I worry that I'm coming across cynical. Many people that I respect talked endlessly about how amazing it was that a film like this, with so much going against it, could possibly pick up so much worldwide attention. But I would like to be the one dissenting voice that points to this moment, and also the moment with the shooting, and say, this is why the film received worldwide attention. I doubt that it has much to do with anybody being in love with the characters as presented. You know, is anybody like, oh, well, I wasn't gonna like it, but then Sienna... I doubt it. This is a product of its brutality. The film Terrifier 1 was significantly criticized for its lack of a real story, a thing I have to continue to do myself. This film has many of the same problems, but is forgiven largely because of its scale. It is amazing that something like this can be put in front of so many audiences to a resounding success. The film delivers on the promises it makes in the opening moments, but nevertheless, no story is in my heart equally a problem as thin story. It's 2.5 hours, and the story remains thin. That's just a Marvel movie, my dude. But that, again, while being a criticism I would give, is actually toward the film's strength as an event. It delivers in the same way that a Marvel movie would, but does so in a way that is garish and oddly similar. There's as much story and plot in this as is in a modern blockbuster event film, but it's for an audience that doesn't get to have event films weirdos. It's for the freaks. But as one of the 4 angelic queens of the freaks, I would like to say that this scene crossed the line a bit for me, even though I was still personally amazed at what they decided to do. Many people got together and they decided they better do this. There's a level of disassociation that comes from looking at your fictional world behind a camera. Taste turns into effect work. So great effect work is certainly true, but tasteful this is not. But for the same people that would see beyond this to a creative mastery it is, would also say it delivered on its potential. But my dudes, look at this shit one more time and ask how you really feel about it. I'm not the hand-wringing type, but Jesus fucking Christ, dude, this is a lot of thing. This is a rare moment where excess in general is seen in a positive light because it draws great attention, and that confuses my mammalian brain deeply. I'm amazed at the reaction to this, but also simultaneously not amazed. I'm shocked, but I'm also not shocked. I care, but I also understand. My nuance is killing me and pouring bleach on my open wounds. Part 4. What? Hello? Help? When someone reviews the quality of a building, they have to ask themselves 2 simultaneous questions. Is the form that this takes the correct form? Is this building simultaneously functional? Does it work and also look cool? Everyone has seen a structure that looked laughably unlivable while continuing to stand up. This is a true evaluation to the elements that make up a piece of art. Does it perform the functions that we assign it, and does it take the correct form to exist as a unique art while maintaining that functionality? Terrifier 2 is technically a very successful sequel to a very unsuccessful prior film. It delivers on its modest goals of being a shocking little gory clown killer movie. Good job. It has what many human beings have called a story. It contains effect work that amazed and horrified audiences everywhere. It is shocking, it is graphic, it is the product of the ideas of its inception. It is a functional film for its own design. But what of the form it takes? Is this a me problem? Probably. I feel like anyone that lovingly crushes their gonads to this movie on a regular occasion would probably say that I am being too sensitive. And maybe I am. As I said, I hate the idea of hand-wringing about content as anyone else. I, for one, wrote the book Fluids, which has gained a reputation for a chapter not unlike the one in the horrible scene in Terrifier 2 where the main character, Lauren, dismembers a living woman while having thoughts of radical love. Fluids was also miraculously successful for an indie title with no help from a broad publisher. Am I a monster? When writing that one bad part in my book, I asked myself this question. Is it functional and does it take the right form to convey my ideas? I wanted the part of the story to represent the fuck-it-all moment for the character where she pushed her own boundaries too far for a seemingly pointless reason just to feel powerful. I've been told that I did well and that I went too far. And I do believe both are true. And not to say that I did this aspect of the story better somehow, but my point is that I have considered these questions plenty of times when thinking about my own art in the same way that I think about it with others' art. If it's a standard for me, it's a standard I live by. So I ask you, what exactly is the story beat that occurs in this horrible scene in Terrifier 2? And not if it crosses a line, but if it crosses the correct line. If this were happening to a character that had more narrative import, I can see this argument. If this were meant to be an arcing moment for Art the Clown, I can see it. But at the end of the scene, I felt that while successfully functional, I wanted the scene to have some kind of significance that was severely lacking. It was a joke. The scene is a joke. I mean, literally. I'm not criticizing it. I'm saying the film, this scene, there's a punchline, there's a setup, a payoff, a punchline. It's a joke. Applying the same lens to the film as a whole, I can say a few things that some may or may not agree with. I think the film is too long. It doesn't justify its runtime with dramatic import. I think the film is excessive in a way that excites me but also disappoints me. I think the film connects well with audiences more through shocking them than providing them with something to really chew on long after it's over. But this isn't really about the way I view the story, but rather how culture sees the story. It objectively connected with culture and became a massive success for everyone involved. It made hella money in theaters. It is spoken about to this day with a lot of gravity. Everything that I'm calling a complaint is actually an aspect of the film's success. Audiences wanted a horror event that felt robust and dense. Audiences wanted something that could really compete with the idea that horror films have to be elevated to be successful. Films like the work of Ty West are good movies without selling themselves as the A24 approach of thing being big, broad, and still horror, yet with intense emotionality and thematically relevant arcs. Elevated horror as a concept has, in a way, alienated audiences that desire simplicity and straightforwardness in their horror. Terrifier 2 fans don't need an analysis video to enjoy it. They get everything they want right in the box. Audiences have been clamoring for something lacking in commercial inauthenticity, and the inauthenticity they feel from things marketed, sold, and talked about as quote-unquote high art. Where's the low art for the people that want low art? It doesn't exist, and it's rarely existed on this scale ever before. Terrifier 2 was bombastically successful because it provided for its audience exactly that, in exactly this way, without apologies or caveats. Part 5. Am I an asshole? Well, yes. But also, this is the part where I create a cool, neat conclusion that ties everything together, even though I've already delivered all of my takes. In hindsight, I didn't like Terrifier 2 as a film, but I did like it as an experience. I had to step out of the theater a couple times to catch my breath and get used to it. A lot of the audience did as well, but we all eventually returned to our seats. We knew we were seasoned, yet the film still challenged us. It was a hard watch and not an easy one. It was a watch that was not particularly enjoyable, but in a lot of ways it felt necessary. I would call it a return to form to the grindhousey movies that I never grew up with because I only just turned 30. I'm actually 31. I wrote this a while back. This is a film from a bygone era that never existed in the first place. In a lot of ways, I feel like Terrifier 2 will be talked about and remembered as the one time there was a real pushback to what people were calling horror in our contemporary times in a broad and successful way. I think there are plenty of us that are ready for this era of film to change, and in a weird way, this represented this change in an albeit sloppy way, but sometimes sloppy is good, actually. There's a split going on in the world of horror films where two different groups want two different things, and neither are really satisfied with the way it's being defined. We can't quantify a film's quality with a film's success, but we also can't discount success for anything less than a measure for an unfulfilled need. Suddenly fulfilled. It's about time someone personified this divide, and this film, for all of its sloppiness, represents that. It's a moment where we all collectively puke in our lap like Garbage Pail Kids and said, "Ew, gross." It was a stupid experience that we all sorely miss. I want a movie to exist like this that I like. I feel like Pearl is that in a lot of ways. It has solid dramatics but doesn't skimp on the gross shit, but it also remains almost too good for the way that horror has manifested throughout time, and it's not gross enough. Nothing is gross enough. Not every movie needs to be The Shining. You know what I mean? If anything, it's inspiring to see someone take their bad ideas and make them as big as they can anyway. It feels real. It feels authentic, even if it's kind of dull, obnoxious, and careless in its depictions. I hated watching it, but I don't hate it in concept. I kind of hate it in execution. It's painfully simple to me, but the simplicity is refreshing at the same time. I don't want to recommend it, but then again, I don't have to. It's something that culture has already taken and run with. It bleeds shitty horror movies, and to be honest with you, contrary to everything that I have said about the film, I kind of miss shitty horror movies. I really miss shitty horror films. Hello, I have been May Leeds. I make a lot of things because I have to, or I will die. This has been a video, and you should also check out my books. One is Gross and Nasty, and the other is Sweet and Cute. Both are bangers, TBH. I also make music that you can find on my Bandcamp page and on Spotify. You can find all the necessary links in the description. Please consider supporting me on patreon.com/nickspheres, which is where you can find pretty much a conglomeration of all of my work, and even supporting me at $1 helps quite a bit in helping me make things, and I try to make a lot of things. I would also like to announce that I have a third book coming at you soon called Rosalind, and I'm also just going to post the 3 covers that I got from Trevor Henderson, the incredible painter. These covers are going to be on the books. Please consider picking them up, as they are my first foray into working with a publisher. I'm now on Hear Us Scream Press, which is going to be very exciting and cool, and I might do some audiobooks. I don't know. There's a lot of talk of things in the air. So thank you for watching. I'm excited for Terrifier 3 too. Don't worry, I sure am. And I'll see you in hell.